I guess it is about time for us to begin. Maybe a little bit past. You know how valuable every minute is in my class. Let's go ahead and begin with a word of prayer. If you'll bow with me. Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this day and the many blessings that we have. And offer a special prayer at this time for all of those around us who are dealing with infection from the virus and all of the symptoms that come with it. And we pray that your hand be upon them and you bless them and help them to recover. And those who are concerned about having it, we pray that they are negative and there are no issues that come from it. We pray that you be with our family here and continue to bless us. We pray this in your Son's name. Amen. All right. Hey, Ryan, did you turn that TV on? I thought I turned that one on. Apparently I did not. The disciplined spirit is what we are talking about this morning. Main scripture is Proverbs 16:32. Whoever is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. What is this proverb conveying to us?
Saying self-control is a must.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? Whoever is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. The word mighty here basically means a warrior. So whoever is slow to anger is better than a warrior. That fits in pretty good with the next part. He who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. The warrior is going to be one who takes a city. It's easier to control a city. It's easier to conquer people than it is to conquer ourselves. Control of self is often neglected because we are too busy trying to conquer others. We're too busy trying to conquer certain things, accomplish certain things in our life. And we neglect ourselves as a result of it. Thomas L. Sills wrote in his book on Proverbs, the tragedy of the modern world is that man is the master of so many things, yet has not learned to master himself. That true?
Yes.
We focus our lives on trying to accomplish certain things in our life. We want to get to a certain place in our life, career-wise, financial-wise, family-wise. How often do we take the time to focus on ourselves and set goals for this is what I want, this is what I see in my life, and this is what I want to accomplish, this is what I want to do within myself. I think that often gets neglected in our lives, and I speak for myself, not for anybody else. With this in mind, with this scripture in mind, why is anger a sin?
Because there's a lack of self-control. Let's kind of clarify, I guess. Anger in and of itself, I don't think is the sin.
Okay, that was it. That was a trick question. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, it's the attitude that comes with it. Is when you let it envelop you, it becomes, we always kind of joke and say, the red or green monster that just overtakes and conquers yourself. You've lost your self-control. You've lost your sobriety as far as everything goes, and you let something else control you other than yourself.
Right.
Well, a lot of reasons why we get angry has to do with being offended, and that means you're only thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about anybody else or what's going on, and being able to control your emotions gives you the space to see what somebody else might be feeling or thinking or what have you, as opposed to being like they're pushing your buttons or whatever.
Right. It's a good point. Anger isn't bad in and of itself. It's something that motivates us into action. What ways can anger motivated us into action?
It can make you try harder.
Okay. How? You got an example or?
If I don't do something the way I want to do it, I get mad at myself and then I try to do it again.
Yeah. That's the first thing that I thought of is I'm angry with myself because of something that I've done or a way that I've done something, and it causes me to look at myself and strive for change. I don't want to do that anymore, or I don't want to be that way anymore. And I try and change. I go through changes so that I don't find myself in that situation. Maybe I'm angry with how my family life is going, and it causes me to address issues that I've neglected. In the church, maybe I get angry about something that somebody has done that may be against God's will, and I strive for change to ensure that that doesn't take root in the church. There are many ways in our life that getting angry is a good thing for us, that it helps us, that it benefits us, that it motivates us into action. But responding or acting as a result of our anger is not wrong. It's necessary to produce change in our lives. Or maybe it's necessary to produce change in others' lives. I can get angry at somebody else in a proper manner, and hopefully through that it produces changes through the way that I behave. So what makes it wrong? Ryan mentioned this just a minute ago, but what makes it wrong? What makes it a sin?
The way we handle it.
Okay, the way we handle it.
Also, I'd say letting it immediately take control, not giving any thought to it. And that's why I love the example that was given to us of Jesus in the temple. Is that righteous anger that's there. Jesus took time to process through to make sure what he's doing wasn't going to be contradictory at all. That this isn't being done out of sin, it's being done out of correction and rebuking and righteousness when he went through that temple to clean out everybody.
Okay.
Sometimes maybe what we're angry at as well.
Okay. I could see that.
And that goes back to the kind of the righteous anger that Ryan just mentioned. Because sometimes we get mad at the stupidest things.
Right.
And it's not something worth being mad about.
Right. Out of selfishness, kind of like what I was talking about, self-focus. We feel we've been offended by somebody. It's one of the. I was listening to a sermon on this past week, and I didn't look it up, and I purposely didn't go to Jesus cleansing the temple. Because that's one that we always think of is, he cleanses the temple. I'm like, okay. But what's interesting, and I should have taken the time to look it up, but the point that the preacher made was that nowhere in that passage does it say Jesus was angry. He had a zeal. He was zealous. But was he angry? I don't know. So I didn't go into that, but I thought that was interesting. I never thought of it that way, that he was just not consumed with anger where he couldn't control himself, but he was angry and he just overturned the tables and drove them out. Everything he did was controlled. He didn't just drive out the animals, because if he drove out the animals, then the people who rightfully owned them would lose them, and he'd be taken from people. I thought that was interesting. That's a side note. We won't go into that any farther. But just something to think about. In Proverbs 14:29 it says, "Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly." It's that hasty temper, or put another way, someone who is quick to anger, that brings about sin in our lives. It's that idea of not stopping to consider ramifications, not stopping to think about what you're going to do or what you're going to say. You just spout out what you're thinking. What does being quick to anger indicate? Oh, good.
Well, it's all reactive.
Okay.
There's no contemplation, there's no empathy, there's no compassion, it's pure reaction.
Okay. That's exactly right. There's this lack of self-control, a lack of self-discipline in your life, so that when something happens, you're immediate in your response.
Well, it completely flies in the face of 4 of the fruits of the Spirit.
Okay.
Is the way I look at it. Peace, gentleness, self-control.
Patience.
That's the other one. Yeah, it flies in the face of all 4 of those.
Yeah.
Being put to anger.
That's very true. And that whole idea of self-control, being a fruit of the Spirit. If we're quick-tempered, if we're quick to anger, quick to wrath, we'll read, there is no self-control. It's just impulse, or guided by impulse. Almost like a muscle memory. You know how Mindy has muscle memory.
You're not lying.
In Proverbs 25:28, a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. Compare that to what we see here about a city being taken. You know, it seems to go together. But this is the opposite. What is the problem with a city that's left without walls?
It's vulnerable.
It's vulnerable. People can come in, people can go out, people can take your city, and you can't do anything about it because you're left undefended. Isn't that the same thing with our mind? If our mind has no walls, what happens?
All kinds of stuff gets in.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff gets in and all kinds of stuff comes out. It doesn't take any time for it to come out. Instead of having to go through the main entrance, you know, follow through your brain and go out the main entrance, it just flies out, right?
And I guess to add on to that too is what happens if we just completely rely on the walls? We put them up and if we don't put someone on the wall to watch, the walls will still be conquered. It doesn't matter. You need to be vigilant about the defense of whatever city or structure or your mind you're putting up.
That's a good point to add on to it. That's very, very true. In Proverbs 29:11, the first part of it says, "A fool gives full vent to his spirit." The King James says, "A fool uttereth all his mind." The walls to a city let out whatever comes in. The mind allows whatever pops in to come right out. No control over it. Kind of, you come to mind the term hothead, you know, loose cannon, somebody who blows a gasket. They lose control of themselves. They can't control, or they don't control, anything that pops into their head. It just comes out. In 12:16, it says, "Vexation or wrath of a fool is known at once." You don't have to wait to know the fool, because whatever pops in their head, it's coming out. It comes out at once. It's made known what kind of person they are. And then 14:17 says, "A man of quick temper acts foolishly." There's zero filter in this kind of person. You spew forth out of an angry reaction and do or say something that you can't take back. So let's look at some things on being quick-tempered. When you're quick-tempered, you speak before thinking. In 29:20, it says, "Do you see a man who is hasty in his words? There's more hope for a fool than for him." Speaking isn't relegated to those who are angry as we all do it, whether we have problems with anger or not. It's easy to be hasty with our words, isn't it? Even if we're not angry, it's easy to be hasty with our words. Say things out of turn. Say things without thinking. A friend comes to you for advice and you spout off without thinking about their situation, about whether you have the knowledge to help them. there are just so many different ways that we speak hastily without thinking. But it's extremely important whenever we're dealing with anger. Do we say things flippantly without thinking? Why is that? Why is that important? To speak before thinking, or not to speak before thinking.
Words matter.
Words matter. And that takes us right in.
I was just gonna say, once they're out there, they can't be taken back. So it's important to consider what you're going to say before you actually say it.
Right. And that takes us right into the next point, which is it stirs up strife. A hot-tempered man stirs up strife. 29:22, a man of wrath stirs up strife, and one given to anger causes much transgression. So how does anger stir up strife?
Well, as much as we want to forgive and can forgive people, there's still always going to be, I think, that little bit of something in our past. If somebody has scorned us in some way, that and when we get angry, I think all of us experience this, that those immediate memories and reactions do crop up, and it's sometimes hard to completely put them away. I know I've been guilty of that before, feeling wronged by somebody before. When I get angry, that feeling pops back up of the past and things like that.
Right. The whole idea of forgive and forget is not really easily done, is it? It's forgive and try to forget. But that's something that you can't just wipe out of your memory.
Well, I've noticed that when David's upset, I get upset. Or if one of the kids is in a bad mood, we're all in a bad mood. It's contagious. Emotions can be contagious. And so if you're not controlling yours, then it's like you infect everybody else with however you're feeling. And if you can do it, you can use your powers for good. That's super helpful. I mean, that changes the entire culture of what is around you. But if you don't control it, then you're bringing everybody else down.
That's true.
On a similar note, I've noticed in the classroom, I'll be guilty of it because one of the kids do something stupid and annoying, and instead of reacting to it in a more kind way that would probably diffuse the situation, I'll get sarcastic or something like that. I know that's shocking, but and then it just makes them go up more instead of diffusing the situation. And so I think similar to what she was saying, when you're quick to anger, you generally don't diffuse it but make it worse.
Right. I think a lot of it comes down to, as we talked about earlier, is about pride, about wanting to prove yourself right, wanting to protect yourself, wanting to show somebody else wrong. You don't listen to what's being said. And so you're driving a wedge between you and another. When we speak quickly, when we're quick-tempered, when we're quick to anger, it's easy for us to just tune out the other person, isn't it? Or we listen to key words so that we can latch onto it and go after them, and I'm gonna show you. It's selfish driven. It's pridefully driven. And it goes to the next point of, you're not really looking for solutions. You're not looking for a way to minimize your anger except through demolishing the opponent, except through tearing down the city. Instead of trying to conquer yourself, to have that self-control, you're trying to destroy the other person. Now, you may not feel like you're trying to destroy, you don't want to say, I'm trying to destroy them, but you're trying to destroy the argument. You're trying to win. You're trying to outdo the other person. You just want to have your say. You want to be heard. Who cares what damage you create in the process?
Yeah, I can never recall ever coming out of an argument where I went in angry and feeling, even if I won, feeling good. I'm still angry and frustrated, and going back and looking back on it, reflecting back the other person, I turned it the same way, and just negative.
Yeah. And whenever whenever you're quick to anger and you go into an argument and you're spouting off, and the other person spouts off, it never de-escalates. It just continues to escalate and escalate until everybody's hurt and everybody's angry, and you got a house full of anger. 27 verse 4, wrath is cruel. Anger is overwhelming, or anger is a deluge or a flood. But who can stand before the jealousy? How is anger like a flood?
Think about when you get in an argument with somebody. A lot of times, once the words start coming, they just keep on coming.
Yeah.
You know, and I know I've been in situations anyway where in your mind you're thinking, "Okay, should probably stop," and yet you keep going at each other.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, yeah, a flood is defined by being that overwhelming force. You've set up boundaries, you've set up guides and guards to try to get the emotions, or in this case, literally the water, to where it needs to be. But the flood is where it's so much all at once that it's overwhelming all of those things, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And I love that the anger is reflected that way, and it's a flood because when it triggers and you can't control it, that's where it is. It becomes all-encompassing. It's all you can think about, and it is that destructive flash flood force.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you talk about that whenever you get arguing. It's, I don't know how many times it's like I'm in the middle of arguing. I say something, I'm like, "Oops, I should not have said that." But what? I can't take it back. I've already said it. And too often I've already said it, so my foot's dug in and I'm not going anywhere. Even though I'm thinking, why did I say that? It just keeps coming and overwhelms us. A good mental picture, we've all heard the term verbal diarrhea. It just comes spewing out and you can't take back what you've said. It doesn't just come out of our mouth, though, does it? What I say doesn't just come out of my mouth and fall nowhere. What I say overwhelms me, and it overwhelms the person that I'm speaking to. It covers them. What I said and did will never be able to be taken back. The toothpaste is out of the tube. Damage done. Damage is caused. And those things can't be forgotten. They can be forgiven. But how long does it take to repair damage of angry words, of angry actions, of angry thoughts?
Well, we're talking about words here, but the fact of the matter is that because of the overwhelming nature of it, when we're not, controlling it, it manifests itself in lots of physical and other kinds of ways other than just the words we say.
Right.
I've seen many Christian lash out physically that you would be shocked that they did because they let it get control of them like that. So it's not just the words we say, but it can manifest itself in other ways too.
Yeah. Just play sports with someone. You'll find anger, how it takes shape in some people. You're like, yeah, but you're an elder, or you've been a Christian for so long, and you're yelling and screaming. What? That's not right. Well, I've been guilty of that, right?
I think, to answer your question, at least for me, I think it depends on the nature of the relationship. If I'm just an acquaintance with someone or they're strangers to me, it's a lifetime to repair that anger damage. But if it's someone close, I'm very close to a family member, a very intimate friend, the damage can be healed a lot sooner, but there's still going to be a scar for a while.
Right. That's true. That's very true. And it takes a lot of work on my part to do that healing. We can't leave it to the other person. Well, I've said it. I'm sorry, so heal. You can't do that.
Did you just say that people that you're not close to can wound you more than people who you are close to?
No. I was saying that for the strangers, if I'm behaving towards them in an angry way like that, it can take a lifetime for that to heal. Just because the relationship's not the same, but for someone who's close, at least for me, it's easier to forgive and to heal the wounds closer. But the wounds are deeper. I do agree. I think the wounds can be deeper if they're someone close to you.
I still don't understand.
Well, but I think if you have a closer relationship, there's more opportunity to heal because of that relationship and the back and forth and the ability to see maybe progress, ability to see empathy, sympathy, back and forth. While if you got a relationship with somebody that is an acquaintance, you don't have that same relationship, and you're not able to have that back and forth growing with each other. I can see that.
Also, as an acquaintance, if I was doing something that needed to be corrected, I would expect you to do it. You know, hey, I saw that, you know, you kind of went off path here, whatever, you know, to do the correction, whereas opposed to a stranger comes out of nowhere that you don't know and said, by the way, you know, you totally missed the mark there.
Yeah.
You know, I can see that being harder to get. Who are you?
Yeah. And I see, you know, I think that's where this whole quick-tempered thing comes in. Is I'd be more quick-tempered if somebody out of the blue saying, "Hey, you know what I saw you do? Shut up and mind your business." No, that's not what I should say. But somebody who I'm close to, I'd be more likely to listen to and accept. But there's more when we talk about, you know, this outward damage that's done. But there's more to it than the outward thing. We internalize our anger also, don't we?
Are you talking about high blood pressure?
Oh, that's definitely one of them. In Proverbs 27, verse 3, it says, "A stone is heavy, and sand is weighty, but a fool's provocation is heavier than both," or a fool's wrath is heavier than both. What's this proverb mean? As we look at this internalization, what does this proverb mean? Any idea? A stone is heavy and sand is weighty, but a fool's wrath is heavier than both.
Well, with the stone or sand, you can just let that go so easily. Set it down and you can walk away and your burden's lighter. But the fool's wrath is something that's a part of you, it's bound to you, it's literally, I guess I can't explain that any further. But it's not something you can easily just set down and let go.
Right. When you get angry, you just shake it off and it's gone.
Depends.
It depends. Depends how angry you get and whether the situation's been diffused. But most of the time, it weighs on you. And it's heavy. And it's not something you just shake off. It's something that you may stew on for a long time.
And that image, Jeff, is really powerful because I've tried to carry a bag of sand. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So this is heavier than that. That's a pretty powerful image to me.
Yeah. And when we look at this internalization, what does this internalization of anger do to us? You mentioned high blood pressure. That's one of the big things it does to us. What else does it do to us?
You start reading things in where they aren't.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but when somebody says something, you're like, "Who got their limit?" You know, I mean, because your anger is coloring everything.
Right. I think that's good. It's true.
It causes destruction sometimes. I mean, you just want to hit something or slam the door, or, you know, you see movies, people putting their fist through the wall or something like that.
Yeah. I hate to admit, when I was younger, I put my hand through a bookcase or two. I get mad and I just lash out. that's definitely destructive to the bookcase and to my hand. Lynn?
I think about, and we're all guilty of letting anger control our emotions and even our actions. But the psalmist says in 7:11, God is angry with the wicked every day. That's what I think it's Psalm 7:11. But yet, he's patient, forgives, very patient.
Yeah.
And I think there's a parallel how we should be patient, forgiveness.
Right.
So was the flood wrong?
I don't know, he's struck us, I mean,
Right.
He kept Moses out of the problem, there's a lot of things.
Right.
But he doesn't let that
Right.
stop his patience and his kindness.
Yeah. And we look at, we see that and we understand the benefit it takes for us to quote the famous philosopher Taylor Swift, to shake it off. I don't even know why that popped in my head. I apologize to everybody for that one. Wow. But we know the benefit of it, but we don't do it. It makes us sick. Gives us high blood pressure. It stresses us out. It damages our bodies. It damages our relationships. It makes us miserable. It damages those we're around. It damages the church that we're a part of. We see all of the ways that it negatively affects us. And yet we still struggle to deal with it in a proper manner. In Ephesians 4, we're all familiar with this, 26 and 27. It says, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down in your anger, and give no opportunity to the devil." Verse 30, "And do not grieve the Spirit of God, by whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from among you, along with all malice." How we deal with our anger has a direct impact on those around us, as we just read. It isn't something we can choose to do. It isn't something that we can choose whether we do it or don't do it and still be in good standing with God. Does that make sense? As I was saying that, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But Mindy's shaking her head. I'm good. But we don't have the choice to, have this stuff in our life and still be in good standing with God. It must be put away from us. So, what does, click the button mean? What does slow to anger mean?
Think before you act. Or speak.
Think before you act? Okay. I think it's such a simple thing, simple question. What does being slow to anger mean? It means not being angry quickly. You think before you act.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness, okay. We can go through so many different definitions and things like this. Anger is not our first response when we're confronted with a situation. It isn't the first thing you think about to be angry. Your response, your reaction isn't to be angry. Remember chapter 16, verse 32? What's it say? "Whoever is slow to anger is better than the mighty, is better than the warrior." The word slow, whoever is slow to anger, the word slow means long-suffering. It means patient. Are we patient and long-suffering when something happens to us? Or do we just react without thinking? Being slow to anger takes self-control. We've talked about this all class. In 1632, the second part of that, it says, he who rules his spirit, he who controls his spirit, is better than he who takes a city. So how do we have self-control?
Well, I think it's like what you said, where anger is a secondary emotion, and if you can identify what the primary one was, then perhaps you can change the situation, or you can address it. It's
Okay.
just, it's stopping that chain before it goes down too far.
Okay, that's a very good answer, and that's actually,
Sorry.
no, that's, I don't even know if we'll get to it, but, so it's good that you brought that up, but yeah, that's definitely it. Self-control takes work. It takes training. It takes practice. We have to work for it. It's not something that just comes naturally, is it? We have to train ourselves. When somebody wrongs us, pride takes over. We have to train ourselves. And a lot of times that takes going back to what the trigger is. There's something there that's causing us to be angry, and we have to find out what that is. That's the life of a Christian, though, isn't it? Self-control in all things. It's not just anger. It's self-control in every aspect of our life. Anger. Not wrong to be angry. But it takes self-control to know when the correct time to be angry is. Do we train ourselves in this area? If not, it's probably a good idea for us to do that, because there's a good reward for that. Being quick to anger, it's not going to cost my soul, is it? It very well could, couldn't it? We just read that it's supposed to be put away from us. If we don't let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away, then am I living like I should? No. So yes, it could cost us our soul.
Well, you said earlier about not grieving the spirit, and that's like what Tricia was saying, where when you're angry, you got that filter in your brain that's constantly chewing on you. And that's grieving the spirit that's supposed to be dwelling in you, I'm sure. And so is that whole mental health component.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't get angry very often, but when I do, it's usually over the simplest, most useless thing that really doesn't amount to anything.
Right.
So there's a lot of self-evaluation. Now, can you confuse displeased with anger? Can displeasure be moved into anger? If you dwell on it, I think you can. But personally, just speaking for myself, the things I do get angry about, they don't mean a hill of beans and nothing, usually.
Right.
So, why?
Yeah. I find myself that way when I'm driving.
And I use that to help me not to get angry over a similar situation next time.
Yeah.
You've heard the thing, water off a duck's back. That's harder than it sounds either, too.
Yeah. But yeah, when I'm driving and somebody will cut me off, I'll get mad and, man, that jerk, I can't believe he did that. And if I take just a second, I'll say, you know what, I think I cut somebody off back there. So, I didn't mean to, but I think I did. So, I'm getting mad at this person. Why am I getting mad at him? And that can go back to the root of the anger. The next thing is, how do you obtain self-control? We talked about that. Understanding. In 14:29, the first part says, whoever is slow to anger has great understanding. So what is it that we're to understand? If we have great understanding, what is it that we're supposed to understand?
I think Mindy touched on that earlier. She said, I don't remember exactly what she said, but something about understanding the primary emotion for why it is that you're getting mad.
Okay,
So I think that plays into it.
okay, right.
You understand yourself as well as if you know you're going to be quick, that's just your temper is quick to temper, know you have to walk away. And know that you, as much as you want to dig in and bite down like a bulldog, you have to walk away from time to time.
Okay. I think part of the understanding is understanding how God wants us to behave. In the moment when we want to lash out, we've got to understand, I'm supposed to be a light. If I react, am I going to be a light or am I going to be a dark cloud blocking the light? The other part is understanding the situation, understanding the context of the situation. Somebody says something to me that I take offense to, but they meant it as a compliment, but I take it as, something offensive. Maybe they're being sarcastic, I don't know. We have to understand the situation. All too often we respond without knowing the situation is. I think that takes us to the next point. I think these 2 points are really tied hand in hand, and that's discretion. In chapter 19:11 it says, good sense or discretion makes one slow to anger. We should understand the situation and should determine what is warranted by these situations or by the offenses committed against us. This goes hand in hand with understanding, because you can't have one. You can't have one without the other. We have to know and understand and use our good sense given by God. That's the idea of wisdom. We understand, we know, but we have to put it into practice and respond in a proper manner. So what is our purpose?
What's our purpose?
What's our purpose?
To glorify God.
To glorify God. That makes all of this kind of go right into place. If our purpose is to glorify God and honor God with our lives, and we're responding out of anger, we're quick to anger, how in the world are we glorifying God? We're not. Let's just run through this last part real quick. Properly handling anger. First thing we have to do is we have to break patterns. In chapter 19:19, a man of great wrath will pay the penalty, for if you deliver him, you'll only have to do it again. Only you can stop the pattern of anger in your life. I can't do it for you. You can't do it for me. If you don't stop the pattern, you will set yourself up for failure every time and endanger your soul. Repeating the pattern alienates friends, alienates loved ones, alienates brothers and sisters. We have to guard our mouth. Whoever restrains his words has knowledge, and he who has a cool spirit is a man of understanding. Even a fool who keeps silent is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is deemed intelligent. And whoever keeps his mouth and his tongue keeps himself out of trouble. Oh, how much trouble we would save ourselves if we kept our mouths shut. But all too often, we have to say things. We have to talk. We have to open our mouth and insert our foot. We have to overlook transgressions. The first part of 19:11 that we looked at earlier is good sense makes one slow to anger. And it goes on to say it is a glory to overlook the offense. Glory means an ornament. It means beauty. So it is a beautiful thing. It is an ornament to us when we overlook an offense. Too often we want to hold on to that offense and use it against somebody for future arguments or for future rainy day. But we have to overlook offenses. Now, there's exceptions. Obviously, if there's sin that's taking place, we can't overlook that. And then we have to get rid of anger. We looked at that in Ephesians 4. We have to have nothing to do with it. Don't allow it inside of you. Don't allow it to fester. Then we direct our anger at the problem, not the person. In Ephesians 4:29, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouth, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. What you have to say, what you have to do, is that for building up or is that for tearing down? If what you're saying is tearing down, well, it needs not be said. If it's for building up, then say it in the correct manner. And we will end right there because we are way past time. I apologize about that. The last thing is be gentle. I forgot to put that up. That's important. And we'll anger in others, and we have to be gentle. There we go. Thank you.